All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. This is Bonding with Gold Bond, and we have the infamous Mark Graham with us today with commonsku. So thank you, Mark, for coming out and bonding with Gold Bond, if you will. We got some really cool topics around commonsku to ask you. But before I get started, what is your weather doing over there?
Well, you may think because you're in, the deep south that Canada is all about igloos and snow and all that. I'm going to tell you. So I've got a nice window here. There we go.
Oh.
So now you can see. So we got, the buds on the trees. We got a nice view there. So, it's working for me. Hopefully I haven't unplugged us here, but it's looking pretty good.
Much more than what we're doing.
yeah, exactly. But we have had a cold winter. It's been a long one. This is usually the time when people in Canada, at least specifically in Toronto, say, we're done with winter, we're ready for the spring. So next couple weeks, it should be on us.
Yeah, Tennessee, our little saying here is if you don't like the weather, just wait 10 minutes and it's guaranteed to be dramatically different. And it's so true, because one day we'll wake up and it's 65 degrees. And then yesterday we woke up and there was snow on the ground and we were like, this is when my little spidey senses get all jacked up, because then I'm like, should I be bundled up? Should I not be? But anyway, well, cool. I would rather be where you are than you coming down to the Bible Belt. I'll extend that offer maybe in July.
Yeah. I hear it's hot, but we would love to come down. I think it would be so fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool to do a little plant tour. But before we get started, for anybody that's watching this, if they've been living under a rock, and commonsku is pretty well known in our industry, right? But just on the off chance, slight marginal opportunity that they're not familiar with commonsku, before we ask you a few questions, can you give us a quick little synopsis about the powerhouse that is commonsku?
Yeah, well, thank you for the kind words and the opportunity. So commonsku is an industry-specific CRM, order management, and team collaboration software application that's been designed for distributors, but we also have a supplier side to it as well, and it's effectively a marketplace, a social marketplace you might call, where we bring suppliers and distributors together to collaborate, to interact, and to really come together on meaningful business projects. So commonsku ultimately streamlines an entire distributor business from that very initial customer opportunity all the way through to the final invoice, and then it pushes into accounting. So designed specifically for the industry, and we've had a lot of fun, and it's been a huge honor to have many distributors come on the platform over the last several years.
Yeah, I think it's undoubtedly life-changing, especially for people that are still trying to maybe figure it out, right? Or don't have the means of utilizing resources like some of the big powerhouses do. And I think it fits everybody, whether you're a big player or a small mom and pop getting started. I mean, it really, to a T, envelopes all of the characteristics and the traits that you need on a day-to-day basis. So it's an awesome tool. If you're not familiar, I highly suggest you go check it out. But that being said, with all the amazing tools that commonsku offers, there's so many cool working parts to it. But in your opinion, what would you say is that number one wow factor, that one thing that you get the most feedback on, like, oh my gosh, this is just a total game changer for me and my business? What would you say that one thing is?
Well, if I could break the rules and give you two things, I would love to do that. But I'll start off with one. I think the feedback that we get from a lot of distributors is the way it makes them look in front of their customers. So we've found that anything we can do to make the distributor look like a rock star and to be differentiated in the eyes of their end client, then we know that that's the right thing. So I'll give you an example. So we have a very popular presentation feature. So it's a presentation feature where distributors can bring in product from Distributor Central, from Sage and ESP, and then create these beautiful web-based presentations that they can send off to their customers, and their customers can then interact live on the presentations. And distributors love them because they're really easy to build, but end clients love them because it gives a very efficient, modern way to interact back with the distributor. And what we've seen is that when a distributor comes onto commonsku and just uses presentations, the conversion goes through the roof, because distributors before a system like commonsku are used to things like PowerPoint, or maybe a Word document that they've created a presentation on, or maybe a PDF. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, exactly. Maybe a little bit 1980s, 1990s. And there's nothing really wrong with that. But the challenge is when it gets off to the customer, there's no way for the customer to efficiently respond back to the distributor. And it's a very small point, but I think that we've really tried to focus on that, because if a distributor can send off a presentation and convert sales at a greater rate because they've impressed the customer, then that's a good thing for everyone. I did say a second thing, and the second thing would be simply that from that presentation, the distributor can go right through to the very end of the sales and operations workflow. So they can go from a presentation right through to a sales order, to a purchase order, and to an invoice within a couple of clicks of a button. So there's no rekeying of information. Everything is in the same system. So that way, the distributor can run way more orders, way more efficiently.
Yeah,
so that's the second thing. But I broke your rules. I'm sorry for giving you two.
No, that's okay. That's good. I like the back end stuff where they can kind of click through, not just from an efficiency standpoint. It's kind of like that slow down to speed up type situation. But the presentations being interactive, that's unbelievable, especially when you think about, and I've never been a distributor, but I would have to think, when we on the supplier side interact with our customers on the distributor side, not a lot of times are they going to want to dedicate a 10 or a 15-minute phone call to kind of work through some stuff, especially when it's a pretty elaborate project. So for them to be able to kind of, bust out insight or feedback, revisions, things like that on a live working document, would be dramatically game changing. Yeah, because I'm sure they want to just hurry up and go, oh no, I like that better in this variation or whatever, let's rock with that and move on, and everybody can kind of go about their day instead of the start stop pattern that you so far.
I think that's a very interesting observation, and what we have learned, and some of this came from the fact that I had started a distributorship before I got into commonsku, is that so many end clients are used to consumer-friendly software, right? So they're used to Skype, they're used to Google Hangouts, they're used to Apple products, they're used to things like Basecamp and Asana and Trello and Facebook, of course. Mm-hmm. And that's the world that many end clients are used to in terms of how they interact. And so we simply wanted to design our software such that it fit within that modern, consumer-friendly software that wasn't intimidating, but very easy and accessible to interact with. And that alone might sound very simple, but that's the key. If you make it simple for a distributor and end client, then that speeds up business, and you're dealing with a lot of end clients who are younger these days, a lot more savvy with technology. Their expectations of the kind of technology they expect from their distributor partners are much higher. And so that's the world that we wanted to really jump right into.
Yeah, what's simple gets done, right? And it makes it easier for a no friction interaction or a no friction experience when they have the tools to kind of do it real time. So yeah, Amazon society, right? We all want it now.
Absolutely. And that's where our industry is going. So that's where we want it to be.
Super crazy. Well, I got to give it up to your lovely lady, Catherine, too. I know she's your magnificent counterpart in this enterprise that you're
She's the smart one. Just like with you and Mark. Just like with you.
Oh, you know what? I appreciate that, Mark. I appreciate that. So I got to ask, and this maybe should have been my first question, but, what was the thing that made you guys decide, you know what, we're going to take this commonsku thing and we're going to run with it. We're all in, because you have a really successful distributorship, and this seemed like it was kind of a side project that you were trying to mold and shape. And then obviously it's taken like wildfire within our industry. But what was that point that you were like, you know what, all chips in, let's do this thing?
So I think to answer that, it's important to go back to where the idea of commonsku came to be in the first place. So for those on the podcast or the video podcast that don't know, but the history of commonsku is it started off as the internal software tool for Right Sleeve. And Right Sleeve is the distributorship that I founded in 2000. And what happened, so this was around 2005. So Right Sleeve literally had paper everywhere. Purchase orders were falling off of our desks. We were forgetting to invoice. Salespeople were so frustrated with rekeying information, and we had this multitude of software applications like Microsoft. We had the Google Suite, we had QuickBooks, we had Distributor Central, we had Sage, we had ESP, we had all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And the business was screeching to a halt. It was flatlining. And so what we did is went out into the market and said, we need to have a better system to streamline our business. And we couldn't find anything that was at the price point and as well as the feature set that we were looking for. So we said, all right, well, how hard could it be to build our own tool? Of course, it's famous last words. It was incredibly difficult, and it took us down this really crazy path. But we were interested in technology, so we knew that we had this problem. We were flatlining in sales, and we knew the reason for it, but we couldn't take any more business on because our systems and operations were literally killing the business. It was preventing us from hiring people and scaling the business, so it was an imperative that we had to build this. So that's the first part of your answer, or of your question, is to explain where it came from and why we made the decision at that point to go all in on what became the system for commonsku. So fast forward about 5 or 6 years later, so we started in 2005, this is around 2010, okay? We built this internal Right Sleeve system, and things were going really well. We were scaling, profitability was moving in the right direction. No more rekeying of information. We were impressing our clients. But now the phone started to ring from people within the industry. And they said, hey, we hear you've got this system. We're really struggling with ours. Can you give advice on what you've done to streamline your operation? And I was always happy to share our experience with people. And all of a sudden, we started to get a little bit more attention, maybe some notoriety, because of what we had done internally at Right Sleeve. And so from there, we started to realize that the industry had a real problem with software, or lack thereof, or good software that allowed a distributor to be modern and to streamline their business from point A to point Z, without having to run around into all these disparate systems. And so since we knew the market and we had this great software, and Catherine and I are entrepreneurs to the core, we said, again, how hard could it be to turn our internal software into an enterprise class software application and run it like a software business? And that's the funny point. How hard could it be? Well, we asked that question, in 2004, 2005, and it was really hard. And in 2010, it was really, really hard to go and create a software company out of it. But we were all in, to address your initial question, because we were passionate about the problem. We knew that we had a great solution, and we knew that there was a market that was huge that needed this. And for an entrepreneur, that is so exciting.
Yeah.
And so we then started that very, exciting path of starting this software application. And ultimately, Right Sleeve, you might be thinking, where did Right Sleeve fit into all of this? Right Sleeve was then commonsku was spun off as a separate company, separate employees altogether. And then Right Sleeve then became a client of commonsku's, just like the hundreds and hundreds of other distributors that are now on commonsku. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, it's awesome to see the evolution of it all, something that you thought you were just doing to benefit your own, and who knew that it would need to be mirrored and replicated throughout the industry. So, and I know a lot of the distributors that we work with that are on commonsku, it amplifies our relationship instinctually, because it's an easy, organic way for us to go, okay, we have middle ground for ease of use, right? There's a lot of cool things that we can do talking to each other through this platform that makes your life on the distributor side so much easier. And for us as a supplier, it makes for a more organic, shift through the building whenever we're processing your stuff, so that you're not pinging for dumb questions or, going back and forth on irrelevant topics. It's a lot easier across the board. So very cool. And I think from my perspective, and this kind of goes into the last question that I want to ask you, one of the features that I personally love about commonsku is just the message board. I think it's so cool that you have so many people on the distributor and the supplier side that are talking to each other in a non-confrontational way, going, hey, I really need some help finding such and such. Does anybody know of a place that we can do this? Or, hey, I've got a project for blah, and I kind of need it tomorrow. Is there anybody out there that's willing to do that?
Or today.
yeah, you see this really fun interaction happening, and some people or other distributors are going, hey, XYZ promo, go check out Go Bond or whatever for this item, and you're always really awesome about going on there, and you're a subject matter expert, so you know who has what on every spectrum. So I think that that's probably one of the most fun tools that I've seen, just from my selfish supplier side, right? Because it gives us an open-ended opportunity to maybe engage with some people that we haven't really been communicating with before, and it's an open platform to get things started. So I guess, what type of feedback have you gotten from both the supplier and the distributor perspective on that feature, and where do you feel like it's the most impactful for each side?
Yeah, so we get a lot of very positive feedback on that, and what you're speaking about, or for folks that may not know commonsku all that well, is that in addition to the CRM and order management side, we've built this community of all the distributors that are on commonsku, as well as all the suppliers that are on commonsku. And if you go back to one of the things that I was dealing with when we were building the software, was this idea of how to connect the industry, because I was always a big believer that a connected and transparent industry meant that everyone would be more successful, and that was just embedded into my DNA. And if you think about where it came from, I mean, commonsku was Right Sleeve's proprietary internal software system, and we decided to commercialize it and effectively sell it to all of Right Sleeve's competitors. And I'm reminded by that by some people who say, why did you do that? What a silly decision. Right. You could have kept this for yourself and you could have gone to the moon. And to which I respond and say, well, that wasn't really Right Sleeve's key to success. Right Sleeve's key to success is in all the other things that it does. It's not the order system that we use. Right. So because of that observation, I knew from day zero, or day 0.1, that Right Sleeve's success was actually tied to me knowing Danny Rosen at Brand Fuel. And it was me knowing Rich Patterson at Patterson Brands, or Denise at Fairwear, or Britney at Gold Bond, right? And that if I then was able to build out this big brain where all these great minds could come together and help one another, then Right Sleeve would actually do a heck of a lot better than it would be if it was just operating within a vacuum. So that idea of community and collaboration and idea sharing was embedded into the DNA of the product from the beginning, which is why I think you see a lot of very friendly, open conversation on the network between competitors.
Yeah.
And I think that is a philosophy that continues to guide it to this day, and why it makes it successful. I think the other thing, the feedback that we get about the community platform, is that it ties suppliers that are in other markets to distributors in other markets. So I'll give you a specific story and something that was near and dear to my heart. So Right Sleeve is a distributor based in Toronto. I would go to Expo every year. I'd go to EME, I'd go to the promo marketing power events, and they'd be in markets well outside of Toronto. Yeah. And we'd be meeting all sorts of fantastic suppliers that were not in our backyard.
Yeah.
So as a distributor, that's really exciting, because we're like, hey, we can work with such and such a distributor. They're in LA. They've got this great t-shirt line. And what I wanted to do was to bring these suppliers into the fold, and so they could interact across geographies. in a way that was really efficient. And that has been an amazing competitive advantage because it brings suppliers that are not necessarily just in Toronto or, just in LA or just in San Francisco altogether. It means that we can truly interact in a global environment all through one technology platform. And that having access to great suppliers in other markets means it just drives more innovation for the distributors. So that it was a big reason why we wanted to create that, to enable social commerce across geographies.
Yeah, and I think, again, speaking selfishly from the supplier side, when you take a gander at that community board and you look at all of the cool projects that people are working on at any given time, it really does spark some inspiration for, okay, what can GoldBond do as a supplier to kind of aid the masses or give a better sprinkling, knowing what type of projects everybody is encountering, right? It allows us to have a small glimpse into everybody's world on that side of the fence of things that they get requests for. It's not, there's a lot of creative geniuses out there in our industry, but these thoughts, evolve from somewhere. So it's not just about a coffee mug or a pen or something like that. A lot of it is in solution-based opportunities, and that's eye-opening for us being able to see the community board.
I just think it's so interesting how our industry is evolving when you think about the relationship between suppliers and distributors. And again, speaking from my distributor background, every progressive supplier that I have ever met in my almost 20 years in this business will always ask questions like, what are you working on? What kind of projects do you have? What kind of opportunities are you working on right now that we as your supplier partner can help you with? Mm-hmm. And sure, some distributors may keep their cards close to their vest and not want to answer that. I never quite understood that mentality, because if I can bring you into my world and you help me close the deal, then hey, both of us have won in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I think that this concept of opening the kimono, so to speak, and allowing distributors to share their projects and also for suppliers to see how distributors are working with them all in real time allows you to be so much more relevant in the moment, as opposed to you potentially trekking up to Toronto maybe once a year, if ever, and showing your stuff to our salespeople, and then afterwards they may go, well, she was really great, but I kind of forgot her after 2 weeks. I mean, no one would ever forget, but the point is, how do you evolve supplier and distributor relationships and make them more real time and in the moment, as opposed to every 4 months when a supplier sales rep happens to get an appointment with a distributor firm to show them their latest gear. So that to me felt inefficient. So. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's, I think, a common struggle for all of you suppliers that are watching out there. We always combat the mental block of, when I walk out the door from this meeting, the day's going to go a little bananas and you're going to forget everything that we just discussed for the last hour or so that I was here. So yeah, absolutely. Now you've captured something that's lustrous to them, relevant, it's in the moment, and it kind of just organically sparks that relationship because you start ping-ponging and you have a little bit of popcorn conversation. So I love it. Yeah, I think it's great. It's super helpful for us. I know that we've landed more than a few opportunities on that message board, so I thank you for building that.
I love it. I love hearing that.
Yeah, or Catherine, if that was your idea, you're a genius, girlfriend. But all right, so you have a lot of cool events around commonsku that is truly a community with education and helpful tools, tricks for anybody, no matter their tenure in the industry. So I know that I've asked you a couple of questions, but I would love to wrap it up with kind of a sneak peek of what's to come. What do you guys have on the docket for commonsku? I know you got a fun event coming up. So.
Yes. So, specifically with events, we have our SKU Camp event, which is our business planning workshop event that is going to take place in New Orleans, September 30th to October 3rd. It's going to be awesome. I know AJ is also listening to this, and I think AJ is in fact from New Orleans. So, a shout out to AJ.
Good.
But really fun place, and we bring together our customers for a really intense business planning workshop style event, as well as a huge amount of fun. There's no question. commonsku is really all about getting business done, but also about connecting and having a lot of fun. So that'll be amazing. We also have our SKUCon event that takes place every January, the day before Expo. For all the folks that come out to Expo, we do that. We're going to be doing that again in January. We haven't launched the event just yet, but we'll do so probably in the next couple months. And that's our one-day event. And again, really focused on inspiration, education, and bringing the community together. You also asked about other things that are within the platform. I would say two things we're working on that are, I think, going to be really exciting. Number one is a product called commonsku Shops. And this is where we're going to be creating front-facing shops that will allow for distributors to put up a storefront and allow for their end clients to order, to amalgamate orders. And then the killer feature is that all of those orders then come right into the back end of commonsku. So there's no rekeying of information. That's one of our kind of hallmarks, no rekeying of information.
That sounds wicked.
So that is, we're actually in beta on that run right now, and we'll be launching that very soon. So that should be a real game changer. And then the other thing is we've been big supporters of the promo standards protocol. Big shout out to all the original folks that that built out that protocol, and we've been one of the service providers that have been working on integrating that data. That will allow for us to do cool things like order status in real time, inventory check in real time, and then also the holy grail of submitting orders directly into supplier partners' systems. So that then saves suppliers tons of time on the operational side. So we're really committed to this idea of reducing friction, creating modern and beautiful software that connects the distributor and the supplier. And that's going to be something you'll see at some point this year as well. So
yeah, that's going to be so wonderful.
Yeah.
And one, it makes everything, so much easier for the distributor too. You guys have so many things going on and so many orders from different vendors at any given time, juggling all of that has got to be complicated. I know for us, the promo standards piece is just, it's been a truly invaluable asset to just streamlining and taking care of the customer, right? It allows us to do things better and faster and with ease. So we can focus on other fun stuff like bringing in new products or going to the community board on commonsku.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah, stuff like that. But this has been awesome, Mark. Thank you again so much for letting us steal a couple of minutes of your beautiful Toronto day over there. But any last words that you want to impart or anything that you want to ask by any chance?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the program. I think it's a great honor and love to chat with you, and always love an opportunity to talk a little bit about commonsku. But you know what? I will ask you a question. So we actually started off in our pre-interview talking about content and engagement on social platforms. And I made the observation that Gold Bond, I would say, let's say about a year ago, was pretty quiet on that front, on the content front and the social media front. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, almost out of nowhere, led by you and AJ, you have marched onto the main stage with this great content and social engagement strategy. And I wanted to ask you as to why the shift, why the investment in something that was largely dormant or maybe invisible in the past for your brand.
Yeah, thank you for noticing, one, and I've got to give complete kudos to AJ, our social media coordinator, because without him, you would see some pretty rough stuff on our our content feed. He really wraps everything in really well and creates a nice package that we present on our social spectrum. But for us, it was just an outlet or a channel of engagement that we had untapped. And again, going into what you were talking about before, we're living in a society where instant gratification is the social norm. And a lot of times people won't want to take a 15-minute phone call or read out a flyer e-blast that you probably get inundated with every day. But you know what, it's fun to watch a 30-second video of stuff that's going on, and it just hits the high notes of what's relevant at the time, or the product, or whatever the case may be. And we didn't really have a way to do that before. It's allowed us to really spray our reach of engagement in a very time efficient fashion, and allowed us to get things kick-started with people where maybe we just didn't have a presence with before. Like you said, Toronto, you know, maybe we go up there once a year or once every couple of months, but what about all the in between? It's not that we don't want to talk, it's just, you know, you kind of go, oh crap, it's been 2 weeks and I need to give Mark a shout and see how things are going, right? But yeah, we totally went full throttle on the social spectrum, which has been awesome for us. It's allowed us to really garner some great feedback too from distributors of things that they like, things that they would like to see more of, and it's allowed us to really shape not just the content that we push out moving forward, but also the offerings that we bring or become available going into the future months. So yeah, we definitely made a proactive push. AJ's got his sight set on that beautiful social scene trophy at PPAI, so he's been brewing with some really cool stuff.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a good goal.
Yeah.
But was there, you know, maybe one final question for you? I'm always interested in companies that have been around a while, right? And Gold Bond's been around for a while. Was there a debate or maybe a disagreement about you getting into social media where maybe your past had not been in that area? And if there was a disagreement about it, what was the thing that people were concerned about?
Well, yes, I think anytime you aim to provide a little bit of disruption, if you will, via change, people are always a little trepidatious about it, right? Just because you're like, we've never done that before, why would we start now, right?
Yeah. And they make that face, right?
Right, exactly. But anywho, and then of course, AJ's got like the coolest job in the world, right? Social media coordinator, that's a pretty rocking gig. But yeah, there was a little bit of back and forth in terms of what is the business need for it, and how do we justify going all in on these when we have been completely dormant, like you said, and for that matter, a little irrelevant, if you will, just because we don't participate right at that time. But I think for us, you know, the game changer was, you know what, if we stay in the stagnant position that we've always been, this industry is always an evolutionary process. It progresses daily, right? And things that are relevant now, 30 days from now, might seem like ancient Greek, right? Yeah. So for us, it was really about let's start something new. Let's get updated. Let's roll with the times. Let's show people that we're not the old pencil company that we started out to be. And I think a lot of people pigeonholed us to that in their mind. Golf or pencils, right? That's kind of what we're known for. And this has given us a channel to express all of the different things that we can do. Yeah. And, you know, kickstart a conversation with folks that we haven't, like I said before. But yes, it was definitely an apprehensive moment of, when we pull the trigger on this, you know, we have to go into it with a completely open mind. Yeah. And I think now that we've done it, of course, everybody's all behind it because it's
right.
really well, thanks AJ. But it's a learning curve for a lot of people.
I think it's a great point that people get a little twitchy around change.
Right.
And of course, there's always the concern about what does your original core customer base think about it. They may go, I don't like these crazy Instagram videos. You know, I like the golf balls and pencils, and that's great. But are you really growing if that's the only group that you're focused on? So, anyways, congratulations on taking the risk. Certainly, people are taking notice, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you, Mark. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you again so much for your time. I know you're busy, especially launching some 2.0 features and getting ready for New Orleans. So we look forward to hopefully seeing you there. And for everybody in TV land, thank you for watching Mark Graham with commonsku, right?
Awesome. Thank you. That was so fun.
Thanks for joining.
Cool.